Hey everybody, welcome back to the SuperBake podcast. I'm your host, Baker. Let's talk about stuff. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. So today I'm going to be talking about Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness. Got to watch this movie last weekend and just going to give my thoughts on that. So as always, this is going to be pretty spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, just consider this your heads up. Friendly warning on that one. Just to give my overall opinions of the movie just right off the bat, I liked it. I didn't love it. I would just say it was good. It was pretty good. Just probably not one of my favorite Marvel films, at least not the come out in recent memory. And I'll kind of go into that and my reasons why here in a little bit. But directed by Sam Raimi, who I was excited to see him back at the helm of a superhero movie. Trying to think, I think the only superhero movie I can remember him directing since, I don't think he's done anything since the Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire, but that was cool to see him back at the helm for this. Stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Elizabeth Olsen, Benedict Wong, and and Rachel McAdams returning in this movie as well. Music by Danny Elfman, and as of this recording, the movie has made $229.3 million in the global box office and a budget of $200 million. So it's not terribly surprising for a Marvel film. I'm actually kind of surprised that it hasn't made more than that. Basically to give a brief synopsis of the plot, the story begins with the character America Chavez with another version of Doctor Strange from a different dimension, basically being chased by this giant demon thing. Looks like it's made of like ribbons or something. They try to get to this thing called the Book of Ashanti, which is an object that's said to grant wizards whatever power they need to overcome evil. In the battle, the alternate Doctor Strange is killed by the demon, and Chavez accidentally uses her powers to teleport to other multiverses. She uses these powers accidentally, which leads her to the Doctor Strange from our universe. She's immediately pursued by a giant octopus demon who you may have seen in the trailer, looks kind of like the Shuma Gorath character from the Marvel Comics when she's saved by Strange and Wong. Wong in this movie is actually the Sorcerer Supreme, which is actually a pretty funny running gag throughout the film. Strange realizes that the demons chasing Chavez have some special rune markings made from witchcraft. He goes to talk to the only expert he knows on witchcraft, Wanda Maximoff, aka Scarlet Witch, to see if she might be able to help figure out what's going on here. When he does, he discovers that she's actually the one behind the attacks, and she reveals that she's been corrupted by this object called the Darkhold, which she acquired at the end of the series WandaVision, which, just to be completely transparent, I have not seen that show yet. Wanda she wants to use Chavez's powers to travel to another multiverse so she can find her children. Basically, her children in WandaVision, at least my understanding is they don't exist, and she basically wants to find a universe where they do exist so she can basically be their mother because she misses them, and that's kind of her big point in this movie. However, it's revealed that her using Chavez's powers will require her to take them, which will kill Chavez in the process. So Strange and Chavez, they manage to escape from Wanda into another multiverse where they meet a group of people called the Illuminati, another big Marvel Comics group. Basically, they're a group of superheroes charged with protecting the multiverse and preventing incursions from other universes. Meanwhile, Wanda is using the Darkhold to do what she calls dreamwalking into another version of herself from another multiverse so that she can try to be with her children and also hunt down Chavez and use her powers. From there, it's basically a race against time, as Strange must try to protect Chavez and also prevent Wanda from potentially destroying the multiverse in the process. Strange must also face his own personal demons along the way, as well as himself. Quite literally, it seems, in this movie. So I guess I'll just talk about some of the good things about this movie before I get into some of my issues with it. The first good thing is the acting. Benedict Cumberbatch in this movie, once again, reprising his role as Doctor Strange. Cumberbatch, he's at the top of his game in this film. I mean, I don't know if I've said this before, but he is definitely, I think, one of the best actors in Hollywood right now. I think he's just fantastic. Like, The Power of the Dog film, he's excellent in that movie. And even in a movie like this, I mean, the MCU films are definitely big budget films. They're a big deal because they're getting more and more, big name actors in them, like Christian Bale and Russell Crowe are going to be in the next Thor movie. So you had Glenn Close in the first Guardians film. So I mean, I think that tells you right there that they're drawing a lot of big name A-list actors in them. But these aren't exactly like, these are just popcorn flicks. These aren't Emmy award winning films. But even in a situation like this, it definitely feels like Cumberbatch gives it everything he's got with this character. And I really do feel like he is synonymous with the Strange character. He's as synonymous with this character as Robert Downey Jr. was with Iron Man. I just, at this point, I really don't think I can picture anybody else but Benedict playing this role. And in this film, I mean, he's great. The scenes between Strange and Chavez, they really helped keep the characters grounded, and I think they add that much-needed emotional anchor for the audience to latch onto, especially in a movie like this where you're kind of jumping back and forth between multiverses, at least somewhat. And despite this movie being about the multiverse, Strange and Chavez, they do kind of help keep it grounded with a relatively simple plot, where he's trying to protect her from Wanda, which I like, but I also kind of don't like, and I'll get into that here momentarily. But there actually seems to be weight to his character in this movie. Like, it feels like this isn't just a film about Strange overcoming the antagonist, he's also kind of overcoming a lot of his own personal issues. Another great stand-up performance in this is Elizabeth Olsen, and she honestly might be the best performance in this movie as Wanda Maximoff. I think she's also proving that she has potential to be a truly great actress. Like, actually, I think she already is kind of there. One thing I really like about her character in this story is that even though what she's doing in the movie is pretty bad, she does some pretty awful shit throughout the film, you can at least kind of understand her reasons for doing it. Now, granted, I didn't watch WandaVision, so there may be something there that really kind of helps eliminate some of her motivations in this story that maybe I'm just missing on, but I feel like for the most part I understood it pretty well. And I know for the most part what happens in WandaVision, so it's not like I'm completely in the dark on this. But her motivations in this do at least kind of make sense from a character perspective. She's trying to be reunited with her two sons, even though technically they're not real. Like, she created them in the WandaVision series, but she shows the incredible lengths that she's willing to go through to accomplish that. And Olsen really helps deliver those moments in truly powerful scenes throughout this movie. Like, you can see the agony she's going through in her relentless pursuit to get what she wants. But it's not necessarily out of selfishness, it's just a heartbroken mother who desperately wants to be with her children again. Every scene Olsen is in, she feels imposing and honestly even scary at times. Like, there are some really scary scenes involving her abilities in this movie that really elevate her above just a typical comic book villain. Like, at no point in this did I ever feel like her performance feel phoned in or goofy. Like, Olsen pretty much commands every scene she's in, and she gives a great performance, and one of the better ones I've seen in a movie, comic book or otherwise. And then Benedict Wong, he reprises his character Wong in this story, and he's got some great moments in this movie too, both comedic. Like, there's a running gag in the movie is that he keeps reminding Strange that it's customary to bow before the Sorcerer Supreme because Strange won't do it because he's not used to Wong being the Sorcerer Supreme. So, but then everybody else bows to him, and he just, every time they do, Wong keeps reminding Strange that it's a custom. It's like, it's great. I love it. It's a tradition. Those scenes were great. But he's also got some pretty heavy moments in this story too. Like, there's a scene in the end where he's with Wanda, basically when she's gone full-fledged villain, and he tries to kind of talk some sense into her, and there's kind of a brief confrontation between those two, and that's great too. And there's some other great performances as well. Rachel McAdams, she's great in this movie as well. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, but I do feel like with the little screen time that she's given, I do feel like she does a pretty decent job. Like, we actually kind of technically see two versions of her in this movie. We see the version of her like from our universe, but then we see another version of her from another universe, which they call 838. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, in this movie, they designate the universes with numbers. So, like, our universe is 616, the one that Doctor Strange is from, and then the one that he goes to with the Illuminati is called the 838 universe. So that's pretty funny. And then, but yeah, like, her character, again, even though Rachel McAdams isn't in too much of the film, she does a really good job, I think, in all the scenes that she's in for the most part. As far as like the chemistry between her and Strange, I don't know. And I've kind of thought this about the first movie too. Those two actors, I just don't know if there's much chemistry between them. Like, I see those two in the movie, and I can't see those two together. It just doesn't. That's the one thing I will say. Like, despite the performances of the two very talented actors, like I just feel like Cumberbatch and McAdams, I don't see it. You know, maybe I'm alone in that respect, but that's just one part of the Strange movies that I just never quite got. But regardless, and I'm sorry if I'm completely butchering this name, Xochitl Gomez, who plays America Chavez. So she's good in this role. I don't know if she's been in anything else. This is the first time I've ever seen her, but I think she does a really good job with this character. She definitely has a likability to her, and a certain charm to her character in the scenes. She's a pretty good, I don't want to call sidekick to Doctor Strange, but she kind of is in this film, where he's kind of sort of like her surrogate mentor in a way, kind of a fatherly figure to her. Like we see her with a different version of Strange, which I've heard some people say is like the Defenders version of Doctor Strange in the very beginning of the film. And then, of course, he gets killed off by the demon. We can see him protecting her, and then when she meets up with the Strange in our universe, it's kind of clear that she has an attachment to him, but she doesn't quite know if she can trust him because the Strange in the other universe wanted to use her powers, and that's kind of a big thing in this movie, is that she doesn't trust anybody because everybody wants to use her powers and effectively kill her. But yeah, I mean, I think Gomez does a really good job of portraying that in her character. We do get to see some of her tragic backstory, which I will say, actually, when they show how she lost her parents, that was actually a pretty big moment for her character, and definitely really kind of effed up when you think about it. But honestly, and this is going to be kind of one of the negative things I have to say about this film, I kind of felt like we don't really get to see a whole lot more of her character throughout the movie. It kind of feels like, for the most part, she's sort of the same in the beginning as she is at the end. Like, I don't feel like there's a lot to her character arc. Like, a big thing with her in the movie is that she doesn't have really any control over her powers. When she gets upset, she tends to open these holes into other dimensions with her, which are shaped like stars, which I thought was a really cool effect. I like that the portals she opens to other multiverses are star-shaped. Like, that was a cool effect. But like, it just kind of feels like she goes from having no control over her powers to, at the very end, when she takes on Wanda in a one-on-one fight, suddenly she has perfect control over them. And that was one thing about the movie I was like, I wish they could have spent a little bit more time developing that and kind of showing us how she got to that point. It kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere. So that was one issue that I had with it. That's not so much with her character. That's really more, I guess, with the writing of the movie, which is something that I kind of have a bit of an issue with. But yeah, those were just some of the performances that stuck out to me, at least among the main cast. So yeah, just to kind of go over a few things in this movie, one thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about, a lot of people wonder about, is that with the Illuminati and who plays them. So yes, Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart, he is in this movie. You do hear his voice in the trailer, so that's not a huge spoiler. I think a lot of people kind of knew he was going to be there. I don't know if he outright admitted that he was going to be in this film, but yes, he is in the movie. And he's awesome. He's definitely getting old, though. I think he's like, 80 or something like that? He's like at least in his 80s, and he's definitely looking like it. I mean, I love Patrick Stewart. He's awesome, and he's great in this movie, too. But yeah, like, he definitely looks like he's getting up there for sure. But despite the little screen time that he gets, he does serve a pretty good role in the movie. And again, Stewart, I think, delivers a great performance as Xavier. I mean, he's been playing the character for 20 years now, so he's fantastic in the movie. Of course, one of the big reveals was that the other Illuminati characters, Mordo from the first film, he returns in this movie as the Sorcerer Supreme of Universe 838. So, it was interesting seeing him back in the mix. And then, of course, big reveal that I completely forgot about, but this was a fan theory that people had for a long time. John Krasinski is in this movie as Reed Richards. And that was genuinely surprising. And I remember in the audience, the theater I was at, everybody started cheering when he showed up on screen. It was really cool, but it was immediately kind of a letdown because they don't really do anything with him. And I'll get into that here in a second. Black Bolt is in the movie, and I guess the actor that plays him, I just had it. What was his name? Let's see. I had it pulled up on my phone. Anson Mount. I think he played him in a show as well. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, he's in the movie as Black Bolt. Lashana Lynch is in the movie as the as the A38 version of Captain Marvel, and then you have Haley Atwell in the movie as Peggy Carter, and that universe's version of Captain America. One thing that was a little surprising, though, is there is no Iron Man in this movie. And I'm pretty sure in the comics he is a member of the Illuminati. Because that was kind of one of the big fan theories, too, was that Tom Cruise was supposedly in talks to maybe, not reprise his role, but to play this universe's version of Iron Man. That would have been cool to see, and I feel like that was a pretty big missed opportunity. But no, there's no Iron Man in this movie. So that was a little disappointing, but I mean, it didn't take away from the movie for me, necessarily. But yeah, I mean, seeing these actors, these reveals in there, that was kind of interesting. But the thing is, and this is where I'm going to kind of get into some of my issues with the movie. One of the biggest issues I had with this film was definitely the writing. The writing feels a little sloppy and kind of lazy in some moments. Like with the Illuminati, I really felt like they should have had a much bigger role in this movie, but I think altogether they're in like maybe 15 minutes total of the entire runtime, and I think the movie is about 2 hours long. So, and I don't really feel like they served that big of a purpose in the movie, honestly. Like, they're there to reveal that basically they have a theory that Doctor Strange, like every Doctor Strange in every universe, is always a threat, because like in their universe they reveal that like they had to destroy their Doctor Strange because he, like in the battle against Thanos, he used the object card called the Darkhold and caused an incursion. And caused an incursion in this movie, they explain, is like when two multiverses basically collide into each other and destroy each other. And like their version of Doctor Strange wanted to cause that, or he was trying to explore the multiverse, and I guess he either caused an incursion or he was about to cause an incursion. So they basically had him destroyed using Black Bolt's power of his voice to basically disintegrate him, which I thought was like, damn, that's like, I mean, I guess I get it, but like, geez, that's a pretty effed up thing to do to your friend. But like beyond that, I mean, they don't really serve much purpose. And like once Wanda shows up into that universe to try to get Strange and Gomez, or to get Chavez, like the Illuminati fight her, but it's such a brief fight. It is cool though. Like, one thing I'll say about this movie is like there's definitely some gore in it. Like when they fight that giant squid octopus monster with the giant eye, like Strange uses his powers to lift a telephone pole and stab it in the eye and rip its eye out, which I couldn't help but get like Evil Dead 2 vibes with that thing. I think it's Henrietta when his eye pops out of his head. I kept thinking about that for some reason. Sam Raimi loves those eyeballs going flying across the screen. But yeah, like when Wanda fights the Illuminati, like Black Bolt, she like seals up his mouth and he screams, and then it like makes his head explode from the inside. That was brutal. I remember watching that. I was just like, oh fuck. Okay, they're not messing around this time. Freaking Wanda's a unit in this movie. That's the only thing I'll say for sure. Is like there's this really funny like Terminator scene with her in the movie where she's chasing Strange and Chavez through a sewer system, and it's like it's creepy, but it's also kind of funny in a way. I don't know. I just liked that. But anyways, the Illuminati, I just felt like from the trailer, I really thought they were going to have a much bigger role in this movie, but it just feels like there's not much for them to do other than basically getting killed. And also too, like she takes out Reed Richards and Black Bolt like almost immediately, like Wanda does. And then she has like this fight between her, Peggy Carter, and Captain Marvel. So, okay, Captain Marvel, I can kind of understand giving Wanda a bit of a hard time because she is supposed to be one of the most powerful characters, but like, but Peggy Carter is just Captain America. So, like, I don't understand how Captain America could possibly go up against Wanda. That to me made no sense. Like, she lasted like 5 minutes against her. And it's like, and we saw Wanda in Endgame damn near kill Thanos. Thanos, who basically spanked Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America all at the same time. Then Wanda shows up and nearly torches his ass. I don't know. That was a part I was just like, how is this character who couldn't even take on Thanos one-on-one suddenly able to go toe-to-toe with Wanda, who damn near killed Thanos? But oh well, regardless. But yeah, the Illuminati, they're kind of dispatched pretty quickly in pretty gruesome and interesting ways. Pretty creative, honestly. But yeah, it just kind of felt like they didn't have much of an impact on the story. And another issue that I have with this movie is, for a movie about the multiverse, I felt like we didn't get to see a whole lot of it. And that was surprising and a little disappointing, to be honest. Like, there is the scene where we see Strange going with Chavez across different multiverses. Like there's one where they go through one where they're made of paint. There's one where they go through where it looks like a film noir type movie. Like we see them pass through them briefly, but like we don't really get to spend much time in any of those other universes. For the most part, this movie just takes place in the two main multiverses, 616 and 838. And that's really about it. The other ones were in so briefly that you could hardly say we were in them at all. And that's kind of disappointing. And coming off of the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's interesting going from that film to this, because that film, even though the characters don't physically travel to different multiverses, we still get to see them, and we still get to we get a glimpse into like the characters' lives in those universes, like the alternate versions of them. And in this one, I don't really feel like we get that much of a feel for the other universes and what's going on there. And that was a little disappointing. Actually, in some ways, I was kind of wondering, Everything Everywhere All at Once is so batshit nuts, and this movie feels much smaller and more grounded in comparison to that film. I almost kind of wonder if that movie coming out before Strange 2 maybe worked to this movie's detriment. I almost kind of wonder if Doctor Strange 2 should have come out before Everything, but I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on that. But that was something that I really wanted more of from this movie. I wanted to see like more multiverse stuff. I wanted to see like, because I just think about like the missed opportunity of like the fight sequences they could have had, like Strange battling Wanda across different universes, where maybe like Chavez's powers cause like some kind of break where like different universes are starting to smash into each other. So like we see like one version of Doctor Strange fight a completely different version of Wanda Maximoff. And also, too, it would have been the perfect opportunity to introduce, like, the Spider-Verse. They could have had, like, animated versions of Doctor Strange as well in this movie, and that would have been so cool. Like, it's the multiverse. There's literally no limit to what they could do. And it just felt like they didn't, I don't know. I don't know if maybe they're saving something for future entries, but I just felt like a movie like this, where you have a main character who can use magic, another character who can create portals and travel across universes, another character who uses witchcraft. In a movie about the multiverse, I was expecting to see some truly batshit insane action in this movie. And I felt like we don't really get that until the very end of the film, where we get Zombie Strange. And again, typical Sam Raimi fashion with the zombies. That is the coolest part of the movie. That character was sick. Like where Strange takes over like the zombie version of himself, and he has like this cape. His cape is made of like the souls of like the dead, basically, and he uses that to fight Wanda. That shit was fucking awesome. Like, and honestly, it was kind of creepy too. And that was another thing about the movie that I was kind of disappointed in. They really kind of sold us, I think, in the beginning when they had the first trailer, that this was going to be like a scarier like Marvel movie. And for the most part, this movie felt very tame. I've heard rumors that supposedly there were a lot of rewrites and re-edits for this movie, and that the versions Sam Raimi wanted to make didn't get made, and that's disappointing if that's true. Because I feel like when this movie focuses more on the scary stuff, that's when it's at its best. Like, just to kind of give an idea of like some of the scary shit in this movie, and you can kind of tell watching it that this is definitely a Sam Raimi movie. But some of the best scenes are like with the demons that come after them that Wanda summons, and then when Wanda shows up herself. Like there's a part where Strange sends Chavez to Kamar Taj to protect her, like the temple where like the Sorcerer Supreme and the other sorcerers are at, and he sends her there to protect her. And then Wanda shows up, and there's this big awesome fight sequence between her and the other sorcerers, and it's like the way they portray her in that scene, she's so creepy, and like she's like using mind tricks and some of the other sorcerers to make them kind of like break their will and scare them, and it's like it's really effective for her. And then there's a great chase sequence a little bit later in that same scene where Strange tries to trap her in the mirror dimension, and she turns it into water. And like they're in this room, and she's basically moving through puddles and reflections trying to catch him. And like you get those different Sam Raimi angles where the camera keeps zipping back and forth. Again, kind of like what you would see like in the Evil Dead series or Army of Darkness. And it's like when the film focuses on that stuff, like the scary stuff like that, to me, that's when it's at its best. But unfortunately, there's just not a lot of that in this movie. And it's too bad, because that to me really would have helped make it stand out as just not being another MCU film. Unfortunately, that's pretty few and far between in this movie. There's not a lot of scary scenes. And when it's not scary, it really does feel like it just sticks to the typical Marvel formula. And that was a little disappointing for me. But yeah, and like Another little tidbit I will say, though, is when they introduced Charles Xavier in this, I did notice this in the background. They played the XMen theme from the original cartoon from the 90s, which I totally dug. I couldn't believe it when they did that at first. I had to kind of stop and go, is that the fucking music? Like, holy shit, that was so cool. Like, I'm glad that they added that little tidbit in there. But yeah, like, there's other things about this movie that kind of I wasn't crazy about either. It's really weird. Like, it's one of those films that, like, I really wanted to love it, but there was just, I don't know, there were so many things this movie was lacking that I really wanted to see that kind of keep it from being better, in my opinion. I don't mean all this to say that I think it's a bad film. It's certainly not. It's far from being Marvel's worst. I would just put it like maybe just a little bit above average. Nothing great, but nothing bad either. But yeah, to kind of give my overall thoughts on this movie, while I didn't love it, I did enjoy it pretty thoroughly. I'm a huge fan of Sam Raimi. I love his films, and I really thought this was going to win me over almost immediately. And while there are elements of the film that I enjoyed, I just wish that they could have focused more on the horror elements of the story. If it's true that this movie was heavily edited, that's really too bad. I wish Hollywood would give these directors more room and free reign to do what they want in films, because I feel like those are almost always the films that are great. Like, when studios get involved and edit things down heavily, I feel like that's when they always fuck it up. So, but yeah, for a film with the word multiverse in it, this movie is surprisingly grounded in a lot of scenes, which sometimes it works to the movie's benefit, but sometimes it also works to its detriment. I really wanted to see more batshit insane scenarios, kind of like what we saw in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But this movie definitely felt much tamer by comparison. But yeah, I did find this movie kind of lacking in that respect. But honestly, I think my favorite multiverse film so far is probably Far From Home, the Spider-Man movie, or honestly, Into the Spider-Verse. Love that movie. That's one of my favorite films, period. I just felt like Far From Home, even though it doesn't go into the multiverse stuff very much, it just felt like, as far as multiverse films go, it felt like the superior movie compared to this. But that being said, I still like this movie, and I'd say give it a chance, as it's got a lot of the good MCU elements. I would just probably rank this lower than some of their more recent projects. If I had to give this movie an overall grade, I'd probably say solid B, B+. Good, but not great. I think it's just got some writing and pacing issues that prevent it from being a truly great Marvel film, at least in my opinion. But yeah, check it out. Decide for yourself what you think, and again, always just let me, feel free to comment and let me know what you thought about it. And then on to my next topic. So the trailer dropped, which I saw when I went to go see this movie. The trailer dropped for the new Avatar film, The Way of Water. So this surprised me. I knew they were working on the film, but I didn't know it was coming out this year. To be honest, I kind of gave up on the Avatar film series. I remember when the original came out in 2009, which it's hard to believe it's been that long already. It just seemed like the sequel kept getting pushed back over and over again. Like, I don't remember when it was originally supposed to come out, but I feel like it was like in the mid 2010s or something, like somewhere around 2015, 2016, maybe a little bit before that. And it just seemed like it just kept getting pushed back over and over again. And James Cameron would come out and say, like, oh yeah, we're working on it. And I remember them talking about, hey, he wanted to focus on the new one being like an underwater movie and stuff, kind of like what he did with The Abyss, and focus more on that element of the movie and the Pandora planet. I like the first Avatar. Story-wise, it's basically Dances with Wolves, but in space. It's nothing super original, but what's that saying? There's only like 7 original stories. And really, the selling point of that movie was the special effects, which, to be fair, that movie was awesome in 3D. 3D, I could take it or leave it, but I can honestly say, like, I saw that movie in IMAX 3D, and it was worth every penny. It was awesome. So, I'll probably check this out when it comes out. But yeah, like, watching the trailer, it looks like we get to see Jake Sully in the movie. It looks like he's got his own family that he's trying to take care of. And it looks like we get to see, again, like James Cameron promised, we see a lot more like water elements in this movie. Like we see, I think they're called the Na'vi. We see them swimming with a lot of big like whale type creatures in the movie. So that's something cool. We kind of got more like aerial creatures in the first film. So I think the idea of seeing like the ocean aspect of Pandora and what they can do with that, I'm definitely interested in seeing like where Cameron takes that part of the story to. I've heard rumors that supposedly Sigourney Weaver could potentially be coming back to reprise her character, as well as Stephen Lang as Quaritch, who both those characters I really liked. I thought they were some of the best parts of the original film. So, like, I love a good villain. So, if Quaritch can come back, and I mean, it's science fiction, so of course he could, I think that'd be interesting. But I wouldn't be opposed to a completely new villain, too. I do think that this is probably going to be a lot like the first film, where the special effects are going to kind of be the selling point of it, and the story is probably going to be pretty just subpar or just standard fare. If I had to guess, that's kind of what I would say. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a diehard Avatar fan. I'll definitely check this out when it releases, but this isn't something that I'm super invested in. But like I said before, to be honest, like, just because it kept getting pushed back so much, I kind of just assumed that this was in development hell and we were probably never going to see it. And then just out of nowhere, they're like, oh, here's a trailer. I'm like, oh, it's probably just a teaser. It's probably going to be like another year or two. And then it's like December of 2022. I'm like, oh shit. No, like, are you serious? Like, damn. Okay. All right, James Cameron's been working. Also, too, the actor, it's Sam Worthington, who plays Jake Sully. I don't think I've seen him in too much since, was it the Clash of the Titan films? He's had a few other, like, kind of smaller budget films that he's done since then, here and there, but, like, Clash of the Titans, I think, is the only one that I can think of. Oh, no, there was Terminator Salvation, which he was in, which I liked him. I mean, I think he's fine as an actor. He's not great. He's just kind of like that sort of middle of the road actor. Like, he's the kind of actor I think you cast in popcorn movies, like big budget popcorn movies, because it's like he's good looking enough that he can sell a film, but like he's not like I wouldn't put him on the level of, like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. or Benedict Cumberbatch, where he's like this great actor who can carry a whole movie on his shoulders. I don't think he's quite at that level, but, like, I don't know, he has a certain charisma to him. So. And I mean, the first Avatar, I mean, he's basically famous because of that film. So, but yeah, this, I'll definitely keep an eye out for this. This isn't something that I'm necessarily super excited about, but I imagine I'll probably watch it and maybe give my thoughts on it on the podcast when it does release here in a few months. But yeah, this was surprising. So hopefully maybe this means that we won't have to wait another 10 to 15 years for the sequel for Avatar 2, because I've heard that this is supposed to be like the first of like a new trilogy of movies that they're going to do. Whether or not all the new movies are going to take place like around the water, or if it's going to be something new every time, I guess time will tell on that. So can it be like it's funny, the title is called Avatar: The Way of Water, which this makes me think of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I think like each book or season was like Aang exploring a new element. So it's like, so could this be like the first movie was the air because they were on flying creatures, this is water, so can we get fire next, where the Na'vi learn how to use fire? I mean, it's science fiction. James Cameron could make it happen. I'm just saying that'd be sick as hell if he did. But yeah, well, I guess time will tell, and we'll see how this goes. All right, everybody, I think that's going to conclude it for tonight's episode. Once again, I am on Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And I'll catch you all next time. Later.